Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Jordan Addison at 5 for me. Then at number 4, I have one Jalin Hyatt from Tennessee. Did I get that one right at least?
There you go.
And then this one's a really close one for me, but again, it came down to potential, and I'm surprised at my number 2. But Zay Flowers from Boston College is number 3 for me. And we can talk about either Hyatt or Flowers. I think we should talk about both because
Sure.
that's who everyone wants at 21, right? If it's not an edge rusher, it's those two guys. I'll start with Hyatt because I think you're going to talk about maybe Zay Flowers.
Sure.
Well, I mean, you are. It's one of those things where I heard about this player and that he didn't get, these sort of looks from this defense and these looks or press here, press there, and he can only do one thing. And you hear about this player who can really only do one thing. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go watch this burner. And maybe that's true. Maybe you could say that Jalin Hyatt can only do one thing, but nobody figured out how to stop it. It's not like anybody, I'm not saying this is like Mike Williams, but like Mike Williams, if he does nothing else, he does one thing really freaking well. And guess what? Nobody can stop it.
Yeah.
And in that same vein, Jalin Hyatt has that speed that nobody else has. And frankly, his time at the combine, I do not care, because if he ran a 4.4 or 4.5, whatever it was, that means everyone at Alabama runs a 5.1 because he's exceptionally faster than everybody else on that field by a significant margin. And it comes down to the speed as a runner. It comes down to the speed after the catch. He's got that rare trait. And again, that's why I have him over some like Jordan Addison, two completely different players practically. What Hyatt does, what Addison does are two different things. But if I'm thinking about, what rare trait would I want to invest in, a solid, great route runner or this elite speed, typically I go for the route runner. But in this case, I just think what Hyatt does with this speed is exceptional. What it also comes down to is two other things. One, it's after the catch. Let me look at the composite rankings for our stats. So of the 18 receivers I have ranked, let's just go over the stats overall. Jalin Hyatt is my number 1 in terms of just the pure stats-based rankings. First in yards per route run, which is a huge one. Third in yards after the catch per reception. Second in yards per reception. Fourth in contested catch rate. Seventh in drop rate out of 18. Like, the numbers are really solid. And I think that what he does after the catch and what he does with his ability to catch, there's just a way you want to look at some of these guys. And my number 2 receiver does not do this, which again is a surprise that he's my number 2 receiver. Jalin Hyatt is able to ball track and extend and make plays in a way that it separates him from just being a burner. Now, there are other guys, like I think Marvin Mims is exceptional when it comes to contested catches and difficult catches. But Jalin Hyatt, the way he catches the football, the way he catches it away from his body, adding on to the speed, adding on to the yards after the catch, like, it's a really, really solid player. And if you're worried about the way he could get jammed off the line or something, don't expose him to getting jammed off the line. If you're getting Dalton Kincaid to be an excellent route runner for your team, don't make him an inline tight end all the time.
Yeah.
If you're getting Jalin Hyatt, you have to understand at this point in his career, who he is and what he can do. Go let him do what he does best. So, I think if honestly it comes down to if they had to pick Jalin Hyatt or Zay Flowers in round 1, I do think the Chargers would go with Jalin Hyatt because he fits a bit more of that height profile. He does fit the RAS that Tom Telesco has looked for. I forget exactly what he scored, but it was above a 9. So Tom Telesco values that and has valued that. Actually, the funny thing is the only position that has gotten less than an 8 in his tenure is wide receiver with Mike Williams when it comes to RAS. But if you're looking at those two, I think Jalin Hyatt, again, we don't rank these guys by Chargers fits, but Jalin Hyatt with the ability to, be the wide receiver 3 or 4 this year, the wide receiver even 3 or 4 next year, and to develop in the way that he will, I hope, it's pretty tantalizing. So I don't know why Jalin Hyatt is ranked so far back on some boards. I get that there may be some questions and concerns, but I think he's got an elite trait. I think he does some other additional things that make him exceptional. The numbers are fantastic. And I think if you have the right offense, don't just go pick him because he's fast. If you want to do that, wait till rounds 2 or 3 or 4. You can find fast guys, but I just think that of these speedy guys, he has just a little bit more of other things that the other guys do.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. From a physical standpoint, I do think that his 40-yard dash is not really indicative of his time. Like, I would have presumed him for like a 4.35, 4.34 kind of wide receiver. Still, the speed is fantastic. His 40-yard dash was 86th percentile. Vertical jump and broad jump also very explosive, 92nd percentile in the vertical jump, 97th percentile in the broad jump. So this is not an athlete who's just fast. Like, he is very explosive as well. So, people will say like, oh, he's not great after the catch. He doesn't offer you a ton that way. In terms of just like pure elusiveness, I think he can become that. Like, I think it's important to remember that last season was really his first season of truly getting like starter reps. And I think, that does show up, right? Like, I think Tennessee saying, hey, like, let's get you out wide. Let's just do a lot of go balls, a lot of posts, a lot of corners. That makes sense. Like, that's what he does well. But also, I think like one of the things that's a common misconception for him is, that he is like a builder of speed. And I think he knows how to play with pace. That's one of my favorite things about him, is that he is really able to manipulate defenses because of how he knows, like, hey, like, I'm going to go a little bit slower off the line here, and then I'm just going to burn past you. And I think that also, shows up on his 10-yard split. His 10-yard split was in the 87th percentile among wide receivers. So it's not just that he's like fast long speed, like he's fast in the short term. Like, he'll get on you so fast in a hurry. And I think that shows up on tape. And I'm glad you brought up his ball skills. He didn't have a great workout at the combine. Like, people messaged me like, oh, he dropped 2 passes at the combine. Who fucking cares? His ball skills and his drop rate from actual football are fantastic. And I think, this is not like somebody who's going to alligator arm the ball. This is not somebody who's going to body catch. Like, he will go up and get the ball. And I think that stands out for me as well. So yes, right now he probably is mostly a one-trick pony in terms of deep routes, but I think he shows the ability and the explosiveness to become more than that. Yes. And I think that's an important, thing to talk about with a lot of these players. It's like, some of them are going to be specialists. Some of them have the athletic profiles to become more than that. And I think initially, Quentin Johnston was somebody I was a little too harsh on because I didn't love like the physicality that he played with.
Yeah.
Well, in this class, he's 6'2". He's, I think he's 205 pounds or something like that. Those traits stand out. Like, those traits are going to make him go up the board. And he does a lot of other great things well, besides just be tall and big and strong. I wish the physicality would line up with that. But I think it's important to also recognize that when you're talking about first round talents, like, the traits have to matter. Yes. And if you have elite traits, like, you're going to be ahead of the game in terms of like Jordan Addison and Josh Downs, players that I really like. But, I think this is an important conversation to remember for people. Like, this is not like, oh, he was a 3-year starter, he was a Biletnikoff winner 2 times, and like all this stuff. Traits have to matter. And I think that's why we see, Johnston and Hyatt higher on our boards than maybe some other people.